That's the number one task. The number two task is say, okay, I just said to you that 166 hours a week is a conflict-free zone. So does this mean that you're never going to criticize each other during the week? And what about if you do criticize each other, how do you respond to that? And it doesn't mean you won't criticize each other during the week. Tone of voice, a little comment, a little sarcasm, a little this or that will pop up in almost all couples that are together a substantial amount of time during the week. And the issue is not how to avoid that first criticism. The issue is how to keep it from going from criticism to conflict. And so I train the couple how to do things like they hear something that's negative, and so they have a quick response to it. That's normal. Have a response to it. But the second you're repeating a response, the second you hear a tone of voice that's a little bit sarcastic or impatient, that's the signal to say maybe we should say this for our caring and sharing time, which is what I call the 2-hour period of time where you're hearing your partner's concerns. And so then at that point in time, I teach them what to do with that concern, because right now they're feeling all this angst and a lot of almost venom is coming up inside of you, where you want to get back and hurt your partner because they just hurt you. And so I teach them how to journal with that, and then the stages of journaling that the first that they should go, for example, to a computer, and at the computer they should write down why their partner is 100% wrong and why they are 100% right. That's journaling stage number one. And then journaling stage number two is just finding a little something about what your partner said that maybe you could modify, or that might be a little germ of truth. And then they take it down to 4 stages, and then by the time they're finished with that, they sit on that, and at the end of the week, if it's still something that bothers them, then that becomes the concern that they bring up. But oftentimes, by the time they go through that process and 4 or 5 other processes that I ask them to do to sustain a conflict-free zone during the week, they find that they really have resolved it inside of themselves, and they no longer have the angst that they had earlier in the week about that.
Well, now, do you have the opportunity to follow up with some of these couples through the years, or if it's a parent-child, and see how they've turned around their whole way of interacting with each other?
Yes. In fact, one of the things that I found to be deficient in many workshops, couples workshops, was that the people often walked away from a couples workshop with a lot of, oh, that was wonderful, we're going to do this differently. And then you talk to them 2 or 3 weeks later, and their life has gone back to normal, and they still have the same criticisms and arguments that they used to have with each other. And so it's a honeymoon followed by disappointment.
Yes.
And so what I decided to do was, with all my workshops, about 2 or 3 weeks, I schedule a time in the workshop that we can do a free group follow-up phone call. So for the people attending the Omega Institute in May, we'll all take out our calendars. We'll decide like 2 or 3 weeks later to do a group follow-up phone call. So the last workshop I did, every single couple got on the phone except for one that was in Europe, and we talked through first all the things that worked in the last 3 weeks or so, and that inspires everybody in the room. And then all the things that we ran into problems with, stumbling blocks, and then I share what I suggest and what I would do, and that gives every single stumbling block that everybody in the group had. They work it through with me on the phone, and then so that follow-up call really, it helps. I am told, and everyone feels very grateful for that. It's a free follow-up phone call, and it's something that everybody learns from everybody, and I learn from everybody. What about this workshop really worked, and what about this workshop do I need to sort of hone differently, or explain ahead of time, or do whatever I need to do to make it a better workshop. And so I've been doing that for about 20 years, and that's been very, very useful in making it a better workshop. And the second thing I do is to then do a follow-up phone call, group phone call, every year after that, that's open to anyone who's attended one of my workshops previously.
Oh, wow. So you're really thorough, Warren. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm sort of a scientist at heart, and my commitment is that I call myself a romantic pragmatist. I'm very, very romantic, but I really I don't have very much tolerance for people who say I love you or I would do anything for you, and then they don't follow through with what they say. So I'm sort of somebody if you say it, really try to follow through and do it.
Exactly. Now, with the way we're all brought up, and our parents, so many of the families are brought up in a dysfunctional environment, and naturally the kids learn from what they see. So that must be quite a challenge when you've got so many different variables of grown kids now getting married. I've always thought that there should be some kind of a serious session on both parties getting to really know what their childhoods have been like so that they're better prepared when they start living under the same roof. Do you suggest that everyone come to your couples communication retreat even before they get married?
Well, one of my, it's funny you should mention that or ask that, is I suppose if someone, well, I guess I have to say, when a number of parents have given this workshop, they've taken the workshop and then given this workshop as a honeymoon present instead of a trip to Hawaii or whatever, which lasts very beautifully for a week or so. They invest in the Omega workshop or one of the other workshops that I do as a honeymoon present for their son and their daughter. And I have to tell you, it just warms my heart because I know that if I had known this when I got married to I'm very, very happily married, but and the marriage that I've been with for the last 25 years has is to a woman I'm very happy that I met, but I also know I never would have met her if I had known all this when I was married in my first marriage, because there were so many things that I just naturally did that everybody naturally does when they're criticized. That doesn't really provide a safe environment for the person who's feeling like they want to share some concerns that they don't feel like they can share their deepest heart within them. And when you don't know how to listen, it's not just that your partner ends up walking on eggshells. The real gift of good communication is not just to understand and listen to your partner. It's to understand and listen to your partner so well that your partner feels so safe that she or he begins to think thoughts and feel feelings they didn't even know they thought or felt when they began speaking with you, because they've never had such a safe environment that they never allowed themselves to dig that deep. That is the real that is the real gift of that listening process.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, the depth of that, really, you can't put words to it. Well, we are up for a break. Everyone stay with us. More with Warren Farrell. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seekonk Family Chiropractic in Seekonk, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Looking for a fun and relaxing getaway? Omega Rest and Rejuvenation Retreats are a great way to unwind and renew your spirit. You can stretch your body, quiet your mind, and do as much or as little as you choose. Join us in May and we'll waive the daily fees. Located in Rhinebeck, in New York's beautiful Hudson Valley, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. That's 877-944-2002.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first-grade teacher Caitlin Royd DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowd-funded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back. If anyone would like to call in and ask Dr. Farrell a question about their own relationship, a couple's question, or even a parent-child, feel free to call us. We're live. Bob is in the house, and our number is 833-220-1200. Again, 833-220-1200. Don't be shy. So for those that may not be aware of Dr. Warren Farrell, he is currently the chair of the commission to create a White House Council on Boys to Men, and he's co-authoring Boys to Men with John Gray, and that's one of his books that he has co-authored as well. So this would be the second one, right?
Well, actually, yes. This is the book is called The Boy Crisis. It was originally called Boys to Men before we published it, and so we changed it. We must have made contact before that change was made, but it's now the Boy Crisis.
I get it. Okay. And you have been chosen by the Financial Times as one of the world's top 100 thought leaders and by the Center of World Spirituality as one of the world's spiritual leaders. So, and you've been on Oprah and all the different shows out there, so you really know your stuff. Warren, I have to ask you, what led you to choose this type of work?
Well, I think it originally started, I was doing my doctoral dissertation in political science, and I was teaching at Rutgers University. The women's movement surfaced, and I started talking about it in class, and the students said, "Boy, when you talk about the women's movement, you have fire in your belly beyond what you have when you normally talk about urban politics." I was teaching at Rutgers in Newark, and so deeply involved in urban politics, and so I decided to change my dissertation to looking at the politics of the women's movement, and its impact on men's attitudes and behaviors, and that led to my joining the board of directors. Joining now and being involved there, they were going to kick men out, and they had this big compromise, which was let's see if Warren Farrell can get the men in our organization to listen effectively to women, and and maybe he can start some men's groups where the men can sort out their own problems first. And so I started to do that. And that went very successfully. We had people like John Lennon joining one of the groups I found, and so it was, and so that led to my realizing that to being elected to the board of directors of the National Organization for Women in New York City, and that led to my speaking all around the world on the women's movement from a women's perspective and trying to educate men as to the value of it, and so I did that for many years. But then I started to see that there were a lot of divorces, and among those those divorces that what was happening is that nobody was able to, the men thought it was the women's fault, the women thought it was the men's fault, and nobody understood or heard each other. And then as I began to study for what became the boy crisis, I began to see that a lot of these boys were left without their dads after divorces, and that led to the boy crisis. So if I backed the boy crisis up in terms of how to solve the boy crisis, what it really was how to get men and women to be able to hear each other personally, even when they were being critical of each other, and provide a safe environment for that criticism. But I saw that the best thing out there was active listening, and active listening didn't leave the person who was sharing, who was being criticized by their partner. They didn't feel that